everybody, and welcome to Sonic Talk number 380. Ooh, I forgot. 4. It's 384. That's right. 384. I don't know if that has any relevance in numerology, but it feels like a number that should. Well, I suppose 284 would be, because they would be multiples and divisive. Anyway, it's not. Anyway, welcome. Pleased to have everybody here. Of course, Sonic Talk is sponsored by iZotope. iZotope, in fact, do have Iris 2, which we will be giving away a copy of this week. The Ozone 6 competition ran very shortly, but that's what happens when you release so many pieces of new software within the short space of time. But we do have a winner for the Ozone 6 competition, which we'll be announcing later. There will be more on that if you stay tuned. Of course, if you've never seen this before, this is your first time, you might be watching this on YouTube, or you might just be listening to the MP3. If you're just listening to the MP3, do check us out on YouTube. The video stream goes live on a Wednesday at 4 p.m. and also we post it within hours. And if you subscribe to us on YouTube, then you'll be able to get hold of that. And if you're just watching this on YouTube and you have a podcast potential, just subscribe to us in iTunes, where we have an MP3 version of it, and you can listen to it on your bike, going to work, in the bath, or any other place like that. Anyway, welcome everybody. We're going to start off this week. Who haven't we had for a little while? Well, we'll go to Robbie. We haven't had Robbie for. Robbie's there in Robot Studios. Robbie Brodman, of course, music producer, composer, musical director for Howard Jones. Got his modular back up there, I see. What's that in front of it? Oh, that's the. I keep forgetting. That's your is that your Voyager desktop rack or what?
Yeah, and then my lovely little new Microboot SE.
Oh, you bought one in colour, did you?
In white.
In white, lovely.
Yeah, yeah, it's lovely. I prefer it to my mini brute.
You know what? I think I'm with you there, Robbie. There's something about it. It's a bundle of fun.
More compelling.
More compelling. Yeah, I think that's a very good way of putting it. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that you have a new equipment thing going on there. That's very nice. I've got a new equipment thing going on there as well. I was going to reach it. I did show you earlier, but I'll start with. I finally got my Simmons SDS8. So I've got a 5-piece Simmons kit with the bass drum and stand, which, due to my recent hernia operation, I haven't been able to set up. But there's the bass drum as well. I love the bass drum. If only if it was red. It's unfortunately in black, but that's no bad deal anyway. So I'm very pleased with my equipment purchase, and I shall be. I was trying to get it set up so I could do a what's it called? EastEnders drum fill, which is a very Euro UK version of. It's a soap. It's a UK soap, very long running, which has, at the moment of sort of drama at the end, the cliffhanger is the Simmons drum fill or something approaching that. Anyway, I digress. Let's get on to Dave Spears over there in his synth cave. Dave Spears, g4software.com, just announced the release of the Odity 2, right?
Yeah, Monday is the official launch date.
Ooh.
So I thought I'd take time out of the mayhem and Skype off here.
Yeah, Skype off via Skype. So, Dave, yeah, is it crazy business? Because I saw that you've had lots of people entering the competition, presumably, to win the actual ARP Axe flight case, right?
Yeah, we don't really want to give it away. But
no, I was going to say,
we've agreed
what on earth possessed you? I know what it is. You must have 2 of them. You've got one that's in slightly better condition, right?
No, this one's amazing, absolutely amazing condition. Flight cased, everything. I mean, it is it was a kind of moment of madness, really. We kind of went, oh, come on, let's do something reckless, like release an instrument. No, like give that away as a prize.
Yeah, well, cool.
So yeah, it's all getting there. We're all excited, but yeah, busy. I've been away and was working away yesterday and doing things and
Lordy,
just getting geared up.
Right, excellent. Well, glad.
Funny enough, I went to see iZotope.
Did you?
Yeah.
In America,
Yes, in their new offices.
Yeah. Well, we did a shoot with Iris. It was the first time that we did it. They dialed in with a screen share of the desktop and then also a camera on Brad, who was the product manager for Iris 2. And it worked really well. So I sort of saw a bit of the office, but it was mostly just a kind of pop-up backdrop to hide the mess, I think, to be honest, because they're not quite in there yet.
No, it was relatively empty, but yeah, nice, very luxe, lovely.
Excellent. Well, I'd like to see them one day. But anyway, hopefully there'll be more forthcoming. Rich Hilton is over there in, well, I don't know. Have you escaped the storms, or are you kind of under 8 feet of snow where you are as well? You seem to be muted.
We escaped the 8 feet of snow one, but it is snowing right now, has been for a few hours, and is expected to for the duration of the day.
Wow, so you're going to end up with quite a deep...
I think we're looking at 6 to 10 probably inches of snow.
You don't know whether it's feet or inches, really. It could be either, currently with the weather as it is, couldn't it, I suppose?
No, it's going to be inches in this case. And tomorrow we've all got to travel because it's Thanksgiving holiday. So
perfect.
They'll be digging out to start the day.
I guess your boys will be primed with their snow shovels, ready to...
Fortunately, yeah. I think they will both probably be here. Not sure about kid 1, but definitely kid 2.
Excellent. Well, good. That'll save your back, and you can.
Well,
mix
no, it's going to take all. It's going to take all of us.
You're gonna have to dig. You're gonna have to dig your way to the Thanksgiving and out of town. Wow, that's going to be hard work.
Well, just at least out of this driveway. Anyway.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I hope I always forget about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's kind of bigger than Christmas in many ways. You get more days off, don't you? I think, sort of generally speaking, than you do at Christmas.
No.
Oh, okay.
Not really. No. I mean, Thanksgiving's huge. It's one of the major national holidays.
It always
there's a history. There's a history to it that goes back to George Washington that I actually posted on my Facebook page today.
So check it out. Hiltonius. Of course, Rich Hilton is the keyboard player with Chic, and also works with Nile Rodgers in the studio, and has his own Facebook page and everything, like many of us. Hiltonius, I believe. Is it on Facebook?
No doubt.
So,
yeah, no doubt.
Okay. Anyway, Rich, well, thank you very much for joining us. And Gaz, I'm coming to you. Gaz Williams is there in his Bristol bass attic.
Yes.
There, where it's not snowing yet, but it has been jolly cold. Gaz Williams, of course, bass player, producer, professional, co-host on many of the Sonic stuff that we do now. So welcome to you, Gaz. How have you been?
Yes, thank you. Good, thank you. Yeah, been. I know this. Everybody's expecting this, but I'll just show you this briefly, though. That came yesterday.
Oh, that's the what's it called? The
Pono.
Pono.
Yeah, and I think it is an interesting thing in that it does sound really good. I got to be honest, it does.
This is the thing.
Really
the Neil Young backed high resolution audio player, right?
Yeah, and to be honest, it's something that I've been wanting for longer than it was announced. I've been looking for a high quality audio player, something that I could like listen to mixes, sort of 96K mixes, different, and also what's quite nice about it is when you plug it in via USB, it just comes up, it just comes up as flash drives, so you can just load it up without having to go through. I was worried that I thought you might have to go through the Pono
some sort of store.
Hold
it up again. People in the chat room are wanting to say if this is one reason why you should watch the video stream. It looks a bit like a mini an iPod, but then when you turn it, as what was it? Sonic 3265 said Pono the high fidelity Toblerone, which I thought was quite a good way of putting it.
Well, one thing that is quite interesting, that there's two outputs there, sort of essentially a headphone output and a line output, but you can change what those do. One of the modes that you can change it into is you can turn it into dual balanced out modes. So it just outputs a balanced left and a balanced right output, which I think is pretty cool from a sort of professional sort of linking up to professional kit. But I mean, I did a load of tests over the last day or so, including running exactly the same file out of my iPad and out of this, and it was a huge difference, actually, to be fair. The iPad is pretty good. It's not a terrible sound out the headphone output, but it really did sound a lot nicer. Now, the whole kind of question about whether the high sample rate thing is actually makes a difference or not, that's something else that I'm going to be exploring, really. Like I've been lining it up. I've got an album that I mixed at 96 that was recorded and mixed and mastered at 96/24, and then we sort of did a 44 reduction for CD. But I'll be able. In fact, I think the Pono is the only thing I can think of where I can actually play the song sequentially and hear them as it changes sample rate. I think so.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
You know, because ordinarily it's a little bit.
What formats does it play? Does it play like FLAC and all that stuff, OGG Vorbis and all that kind of stuff, or is it?
Not sure about OGG. It does FLAC. It does MP3s. It does WAVs. It does. And I think it does unprotected AACs as well. But FLAC is the format that the Pono store is dealing with. So, right. But I mean, you know, when you read some of the stuff that's been said about it, there's a lot of negativity about it. There's also a lot of positivity about it as well. So I find it quite interesting. I think as a device, I got to be honest, I got sick of just having my my iPhone or my iPad as my music device, because it keep getting distractions, keep getting alerts pinging up, text messages, and that sort of gets in the way of this idea of, you know, music being able to you know, escape into the music, you know, just to be reminded about, I don't know.
Yeah, no, does you say it works as a flash drive? Does it also work as an audio output device if you plug it in? Is it like, can you do that? That would be neat. No,
well, not that I'm aware of. I haven't. But one of the reasons for this profile is when you see the internals of it. There's quite large components, much larger than you'd get in maybe a smartphone or something, and those components are apparently to do with like the headphone amp and whatnot, but also it's got the DAC in it. I believe is a really good one. It's something that previously the cheapest product that had it was around £800 or something. So,
all right. So, how long's what's the battery life like?
Not that great. About 8 hours.
Oh, it doesn't seem so bad, I suppose.
No.
For all but the longest progressive classics, I'd imagine.
It won't play my 12-hour single, will it?
Oh, no, that's true. You'll have to keep it plugged in. Interesting. So what... Has anyone else considered this? We did talk about this, didn't we, previously? I know, Dave, you seem to be nodding there sort of at various points at what Gaz was saying. Interested in something like that?
Possibly. I like the idea that it doesn't go, you know, you don't have to go through the store and you can hang it off your machine as a drive. I like that a lot, actually, because then you can reference stuff at, like you say, different bandwidths.
How much storage has it got?
What? How does it compare, really, Gaz, with a 96 with a 44?
Well, the only one I've done, when you get it, it comes with a song from Harvest, Neil Young's album, which has been apparently encoded off the master tapes at 192K. So at the moment, that's the only high resolution reference that I've checked on it, and that does sound really, really good. So I got to dig out my Harvest CD, I think, and just do a direct comparison with that. But
am I wrong here? But wasn't the some of the Dolby encoding methods use very high modulating frequencies to kind of to do that? Rich, you might know about that. Does that mean you could hear them? You know, the single-ended noise reduction. I think it was Dolby S that was the real posh one. That you had to have some sort of modulation frequency to kind of shoot the noise out of the way or something. Or am I completely off the mark? I think I probably am, looking by the puzzled expressions on everybody's face.
You're not talking about anything I know anything about. That much I can tell you.
Very likely, then, that I just made that up.
I don't know.
Interesting. I know. Appeal to you, Robbie? You've got a kind of urge for something like this?
Yeah. I suspect that the reason that the marked difference, like I said to Gaz yesterday, I'm interested to hear like the same file ripped off a CD put onto both devices. I suspect the thing that really makes a difference, like Gaz says, is the quality of the D2A and headphone amp on it. Yeah. Makes, you know, probably make a marked difference to your listening experience than an iPhone or whatever. Because I've even noticed with my iPhone 6 how much better it is than my last iPhone. So, you know, that does make a significant difference if you're listening to a lot of music.
Right. No, fair enough.
Actually, there's a point there as well. I listened to a song on my wife's iPhone 6, and I listened to the same song on my iPhone 5, and there was such a difference in playback out of the speaker. Huge difference, actually. And in all the bump and all the kind of thing, the hullabaloo about the release of the iPhone, it didn't talk about the improved sound quality, but it was significantly better. So there's all sorts of incremental benefits going on, I suppose, that we don't necessarily hear about. But, so...
Yeah. I know, Rich, does something like this, having sort of portable high-resolution playback, make sense for sort of industry pros, where you can take... rather than listening, via your phone to check mix, you can listen to something really kind of high quality with a decent pair of buds or something like that. Does that make sense?
Couldn't hurt.
You haven't ordered one then?
No. And you have a cost-benefit ratio while you're still looking at, and it's probably always going to be true, that people will choose library size over that much difference in audio. And it's not because I don't hear the difference. It's just that people would rather have that many more songs than have a quarter as many songs and, have them playing at 96K or 192K.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
That said, I have 192K transfer files of the original Chic multitracks, and when you press play, it sounds like a 2-inch machine.
Right.
It really does. It's stunning how good that stuff sounds at 192K.
Yeah,
and how well recorded it was to begin with, which is one of the reasons why it sounds so good. But it's really an amazing thing. You could almost push the faders up straight across to -6, and it plays down the stereo bus just fine. It's pretty amazing how well recorded it is.
Excellent. Well, I guess that might make sense for some opportunity. Maybe the industry pro, might make sense where you don't need a large library. You just need a kind of working copy of stuff, I suppose.
Right.
Reference.
Right. And like I said, it couldn't hurt, because on the odd time that I do mix to 96 and want to listen to it at 96 or play it for somebody at 96, now I have to be sitting at a computer that has a running copy of a playback software that will play 96K files, and my phone isn't one of those. So I guess, why not? It's not a bad idea. But I don't think most people will be that
but it's not
swayed to cut the size of their library by a quarter in order to get, 4 times as much resolution.
Yeah, perhaps you're right. Anyway, let's get on to one of our first topics. This is very interesting, at least I find it so. This was the news that Behringer, there was a recent interview on Amazona.de with Peter Grandel, who is the editor. He's top chap, met him in... where is it? Frankfurt last year at a special bash. And this is news that all this time, ever since Uli Behringer was 16, he's always been into synths, and he's been wanting to make... he made one when he was a kid. This is a picture of it. This is not what they're making. It's not the most beautiful looking thing, but he made this when he was a kid. So, the Ubi one, and now is looking at actually has set up a division to research and manufacture the possibility of some analog stuff, which is actually a very interesting notion. And if you read the translation of the entire review over at Amazona, the thing the entire interview, the thing that is very interesting is this sort of passion that he seems to have for analog equipment, analog synths, and obviously, his route down the kind of Behringer manufacture and doing everything in China and stuff has not been allowed him to concentrate on this. And this sounds like it could be quite an interesting development. I mean, as we know, they're not shy of pushing the price bracket, and and I think one of the things that's very cheap. I mean, the story that I posted that over the weekend, and it went massive. It's had thousands and thousands of hits, that, and most people are making jokes about Behringer stuff will be hissy and break and all that. And I think that's something that's perhaps changed quite a lot since they bought Midas, and in fact Midas is actually the place where they're going to be making this in Manchester, or at least working on the research. Robbie, as a synthesizer consumer, I'm guessing this has quite... I mean, I'm not sure how much Behringer equipment you've got in your studio, but it may well be that could change. I mean, it's not ready quite yet, obviously, but...
Oh, I mean, I was interested. What you hit on that point. I mean, given 3 years ago, I would have just laughed myself silly and just thought exactly all the same sort of things. But since those desks came out, and they seem to have redefined themselves a little bit more in the marketplace, and suddenly professional people have got a little bit more respect for them as a company. So with that involvement, I'm quite open to the idea.
It
Totally.
sounds like, I mean, from what they're saying, they've been sort of analysing componentry that, you just can't get so much these days, some of the vintage stuff that's in some of the classic analogues, and trying other routes and paths to manufacture and to make them. Obviously, I guess they've got to figure out how to do it, so then when they scale up, they can, they can make it at an affordable price. Dave, I'm guessing, this is an interesting, as a collector of, as we can see, a lot of the actual vintage analogue. And because there's a whole new breed of hybrid analog stuff coming out, I mean, this could be quite a big bit of news when they finally release whatever it is going to be, or they are going to be.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, it makes absolute sense in loads of ways. They're amazing. They seem to be amazing on the price point. They've obviously got the manufacturing capability off to a T. That's all been obviously refined over the years. I like the idea that it's being designed by various people who know their stuff, and then obviously manufactured elsewhere. I mean, it's got all the hallmarks, being something really interesting. It will be quite intriguing. Particularly, I was really interested when they were saying about the fact that they've been analysing a lot of these old SSM chips and Curtis chips and stuff like that, because they're becoming, harder and harder and harder to come by. Even Curtis chips now, certain Curtis chips are, starting to creep up in price. So if they find another way to get the kind of same stuff out of other components that are more readily available, that'll be really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think people seem to be quite excited. I mean, we've been running a kind of poll as to what people think they should pay for, because it looks like they're going to try and crack the kind of affordable poly aspect of it, which is no mean feat. Obviously, that's going to be a tricky thing to do.
I don't know why it's a big surprise, really.
I don't know. I suppose because they haven't made any synthesizers or keyboards or anything. They made a piano, I think, didn't they? A kind of Euro grand. But that's about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, it was just kind of like, it didn't really come as any surprise, because obviously the analog thing's pretty hip.
Yeah,
they have got the manufacturing capability. I mean, Christ, I don't know how they get it down to the level that they do. With little Chinese baby fingers. But...
well, perhaps. Who knows? Gaz, I mean, I've not been shy in saying how strong, how amazed I was at the X32 range, and if they can crack something even remotely as groundbreaking in the synthesizer market, it's going to be pretty interesting, right?
Yeah, and completely agree with what Robbie was saying about the X32, so much so that I think I am going to get that new one that was talking about, the one that's the X18 or something, the one that's like a stage box. So it's certainly, in terms of the reputation of the company and the image of them now, I think has certainly improved. So I think that will help with the synthesizer as well. I really do. I think if it was a few years ago, I think it would have not gained any, I think it's very, very interesting. I'm also extremely interested to see what they're going to do, because when they innovate, it is quite interesting what they have done. So I think they always tend to go for lots and lots of functionality. So I wonder if that will apply to the synthesizer. So rather than just doing just a very basic subtractive synthesizer, whether they'll surprise us with something that isn't just a rehash of existing designs and come out with something new. And again, what you're saying about Uli, it being maybe his first love and first passion, now the company's a big company and he's got the facilities to do this. Maybe now he's going to unleash his dreams, and it's definitely exciting. And gosh, have we got any kind of any time frame at all?
Well, yes, it does say in the article that it's going to be another year before they are able to start getting stuff out. Because they've got the testing, and that before they start prototyping, it's going to be a little while yet. So that's quite unusual in the fact of letting this information out so early. I mean, unless it's a bit of market research, which I'm guessing, he may be. Sure. It's not a bad thing.
Surely within the next year, though, we're all anticipating that somebody's going to come out with a poly anyway.
Yeah,
some other polys. I'm gonna imagine this next NAMM or Frankfurt, there's got to be some.
There
some
may
of that
well be.
going down.
There may well be. I know, Rich. Is that something that I mean? It's quite an interesting development. I mean, I think in the US, Behringer were considered to be more acceptable as a brand for some reason. Because I remember there was a lot of endorsees with the rack mount Eurocomps and the EQs and the sample rate converters and stuff like that. You'd see them a lot more perhaps than you did over here. So maybe there might be a bit more of a hunger for it. I don't know.
I can't dispute any of that, but I don't know if any of it's true either. My memory of Behringer is always somehow tied to their having imitated Mackie so completely in the beginning, but I realize it's been a long time, and they certainly deserve another look. But most of their products here are considered to be sort of bargain line solutions that offer increased functionality for the price, but not to compete with, your Avalon level or your whatever, your UA level hardware. That said, I look forward with eager anticipation to see what they come up with as a synth.
Oh, that's nice. Is that the ice cream van?
I bought a new phone the other day because my other phone died. And I only need it for making international calls, and I just haven't got around to changing the ringtone.
Well, it's a fascinating.
There's a better one than that.
Yeah, anyway. I'm sure there probably is. The thing about this Behringer story is, there seems to be a huge appetite for it, going by the traffic it seems to have generated, and so it would be obviously, considering how, I suppose, late in many ways they are coming to the party, seeing as they don't have any history of making any analog synthesizers or instruments. I mean, although they've acquired lots of analog technology experts in the form of Midas and what have you, then Godspeed to them is all I can say, because the sooner the better, I think, would be probably the way to go. And now we've got a taste for it. A year is an awfully long time to wait, definitely. So we'll have to see whether or not they can get anything out any earlier. And I guess, if you're going straight for the poly, it's going to take longer than if you were just going to go for maybe a paraphonic or a single voice or whatever, that kind of thing. Anyway, I guess we should probably take a break now. We'll just going to hear from our sponsors, and then shortly afterwards you'll find out who won last week's Ozone 6 and what the competition is for next week. So, iZotope Iris 2 is here. You may remember Iris 2 with Iris, the spectral filter synthesis and instrument, was basically, let me turn that down a little bit, was born out of this program in many ways. When we were discussing the RX technology, how it would make a great instrument. Obviously, Dave Spears, very own Dave Spears, has been involved in the production of the first one. I don't know if he's got involved in the second one, but you could basically, they've changed so much about it. This notion that you can modulate anything with anything. There's 5 LFOs, 5 envelopes, 8 macros, plus mappable MIDI commands. It's really, really powerful. It very much sounds like they've gone for the more sort of an analog feel to it, and a lot of those waves I think came via Dave as well. So, but Iris 2 is here. It's available now. Really amazing amounts of synthesis capabilities now, and visualizations, intelligent zero crosses. You drop your own samples in the Iris 2. Available now. iZotope.com/Iris to download your 10-day free demo. It comes with a certain amount of sounds. It also has 11 gigabytes of sounds. They got rid of all the kind of word, glass, toys thing, and they've just lumped the whole lot in together, and you just get the whole lot now. So that is very well worth checking out. If you haven't seen anything more about it, we did a special with iZotope a couple of weeks ago, last week maybe, I forget now, where we talked to Brad, and he gave us the sort of overview of what it could do, and that was very interesting. But we now have competition results to give out. So let's just see who won what. So last week we asked you to tweet and for a copy of Ozone 6, and we have a winner. The winner is a chap called Sonny Brown, who has the rather unpleasant Twitter handle of Krusty Booger, which I'm guessing is an American term for something that you find up your nose, perhaps. Anyway, he said 3-4 dub, I'll give it a go. That was in reference to our Adamski interview that we did last week. So he now wins. So Sonny Brown, if you're out there, at Krusty Booger, let us know. We'll get your email address, and we'll pass it on to the iZotope Fairy, and she will No, don't get it to you. There might be a slight delay because obviously we've got Thanksgiving happening at the moment. But now, if you want to win Iris 2, because this week the prize has changed to Iris 2 because that's just come out as well, what you have to do is you need to get on Twitter and you need to basically, if you tweet this, I've used the hashtag modulate everything. At Sonic Nick, at iZotope Inc. You send that, but add a little comment. You've got 140 characters, so you can add a bit of extra comment, and we do like to read it. I know iZotope see a lot of it, so it's always nice to see extra comments while you're at it. So don't forget to win your copy of Iris 2, Modulate Everything at Sonic Nick and at iZotope Inc. Thank you very much for their sponsorship. It's great. So Dave, before we move on, so a lot of those waves were from the classic synth waves. They're from your collection, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. We did loads on obviously the original Iris. Yeah, it's amazing. I got the kind of full-on demo from Brad when we were out there, and you know, we'd had discussions over kind of what could be included in Iris 2, and it was really interesting because a lot of musicians that I know were looking to take it in a very kind of art direction, and they were really receptive to that. But obviously they had this kind of the modulation stuff is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It sounds amazing. I think the GUI is beautiful.
Yeah, it's definitely come. I must say, you know, it was hard to tell. I haven't fired my copy up yet, but the just over Skype, the stuff that actually no, I did have a copy and I was listening to it. The sound, it is, you know, this big and it sounds very beefy, and that's something that is well worth checking out. And it feels much more like a synthesis instrument. You know, it's sort of almost less about the RX technology and much more about the actual synthesis and modulation now, which is not a bad thing. I mean, you can still do all of that stuff. It's just you've got all these other bits and pieces to go with as well. Right, let's try this. Yes, this is a good one. This is from Creators Project. Probably get YouTube policed on this one, but hey, what can I say? I can't really do much about it. This is recently for the gig that John Cale of the Velvet Underground with Liam Young, the Barbican's Digital Revolution exhibition this September. They played a gig and they decided to fly a load of drones around the space dressed up like this, and they look amazing, and it sounds like a fantastic concept, although perhaps over intellectualized to my ears a little bit. Just an interesting idea. Some of these drones also had speakers on them so that they'd put elements of the mix out into the auditorium as well, and mic up the sounds of the drones, so you get these kind of zzz, you know, this buzzing sound. It looks like a very spectacular event, but crazy bonkers. I won't play it all because the more chance of the YouTube police. And I know because Andy very kindly found this topic for me. I was incapacitated recently after my safe but short medical procedure. We'll say no more about that. But crazy idea. What do you think about the idea of flying drones around people's heads? I think, in fact, the one thing that was very funny, there's a review from The Telegraph. Somebody went to the gig and the closing line was, Cale looked at the house searchingly from under his craggy brow, said, "Thank you. No casualties. Good night." And that about sums it up for me. I don't know, Rich, what do you think about the idea of flying drones around above a chic audience? Good idea?
In an indoor venue, it worries me more. There's more ways things can go wrong. But it's been discussed. Years ago, we discussed this. A couple of years ago.
Oh, for cameras or
there were even yes, flying devices bought and tested for this very purpose. But it wasn't so much to do with this sort of puppet show aspect that they were doing, where they were dressing up their cameras as characters and trying to give them personalities, distinct personalities, and the idea of going to an indoor concert venue where people are flying that stuff over my head makes me really, really nervous. And in my mind, it's not a matter of if somebody's going to get hurt. It's just really a matter of when somebody's going to get hurt. But and again, I tend to think that there might be a better use for it than as a sort of a virtual puppet show, but I'm not really sure what that is, other than taking pictures of the performers from various positions in the hall, which you can sort of do now with the way they fly things anyway on cables, like at American football, and I'm sure in other sports in Europe. They have now on-field cameras that are sort of suspended above the play action, so you can get a shot from behind the quarterback's head at the line of scrimmage, and all of this was brought to the fore by video game technology, and they're offering you those views, and then TV people going, well, how can we get that view too?
Yeah.
So I'm really not sure what to do with all this yet, but there might be something cool to do with it. I'm just not sure I want to do it inside of a small theater.
I don't want to be there when it goes wrong. Yeah,
right.
Definitely. Robbie, you're always pushing the envelope for your live show, you know, building various bits and bobs. Any room for drones in the Howard Jones?
Well, when we were on tour in America, we played the Greek Theatre in LA, and there was a couple of the crew had a couple of the Parrot drones with cameras that they flew around out into it's outdoor, the Greek Theatre. And they said that absolutely no way in America are you in any way allowed to fly those things in a public place with an audience. So I was just amazed that they're able to get some sort of, and they must have some crazy insurance thing going.
Ticket prices were there, £1,000 a ticket.
You chop someone's ear off. What's the insurance ramifications for it? I mean, I thought it was a great idea, particularly the point source of the sound flying around and his voice and stuff coming from different. I thought that was the coolest aspect of it to me.
Yeah, it did sound very interesting. They did. I mean, it was kind of heavily over intellectualized, where they were sort of trying to justify why they'd done it. In fact, yeah, it's just a cool idea. You know, the whole notion that drones were only previously only really kind of purveyors of terror and surveillance seemed a little bit far fetched to me. But you know, you've got to sell it. You've got to sell high art somehow. The reason high art becomes high art is because someone talks it up very well. But nonetheless, it's an interesting idea. I don't know, Dave, what do you think? Maybe Underworld? I don't know. It just seems like a bonkers idea. And I'm right. I think with Robbie, saying I don't know how the hell they got away with it in terms of health and safety.
Well, public live. Can you imagine the production meeting where we really want to do this, and then the production manager going, I'll just contact the insurance company on the public liability front, and then them coming back going, absolutely no way. But what was interesting is on that website that had the video, the Creators Project, when there was a picture of Cale and stuff on the stage, the guys were below the stage, weren't they, in the orchestra pit?
Oh yeah, I see
remote
that.
Controls.
That's right.
But it looked like that kind of Blues Brothers cage in front of them.
Oh yeah, there is.
You're all right, then.
Yeah, look, there is. There's a load of. I can see there's a net.
Right.
There's a net in front of them. Oh, good spot, Dave. Yeah. Oh God.
Utterly bizarre.
That is peculiar, isn't it? That's like, as long as it doesn't hurt any of us. Maybe that was the public liability thing. They had to do it like that, or maybe. Well, actually, maybe it's hard to tell. Maybe, in fact, there was netting around the whole thing, so they were contained within a net that was strung up. That could be yes. And he's just walked in and nodded his head going, yes, that's what happened. So they must have flown a net. So if anything fell, it would land in the net. That's interesting.
What would have been good is if they were selling ice creams from the drones in the halfway point.
That would be cool.
Like with a little basket, with the ice cream.
Sessions. Yes, you're selling food and drink out of those things. There you go.
Okay. Well,
monetize it.
That explains a lot. And in fact,
CDs,
that in
t-shirts.
itself, the fact that they've created an environment where it is safe for these things to fly around, and if anything falls down, it's not going to hurt anybody. That in itself is quite a breakthrough. So therefore, that might actually translate to a more global kind of market. I don't know, Gaz. I think maybe the next Rumbelows gig, you should fly a few of those. Have a giant net somewhere.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. I mean, I wish I'd have gone to this because I think there would have been a real feeling of excitement in the audience that would be quite
dread.
Yeah, well, that's good. I got to be honest though. I mean, in terms of dangerous gigs, I have been to a dangerous gig, and that was the German band Faust. Who that's the most scared I've ever been in a gig, and Faust had that's my screen. Faust had a cement mixer on stage, and and they would throw loads of gravel, but it was like quite big gravel, into the cement mixer, which would come spewing out. We'd all be like cowering, being pelted by all the stones that are flying out of the cement. The cement mixer was mic'd up as well, which I thought was quite. But they had a big old beaten up oil barrel in front of us, and we were in the front row, and they started attacking it with power tools, and it was like all these sparks coming over us, and the most dangerous gig I've ever been to in my life.
Not one to wear hairspray to, perhaps.
Yeah.
Not an issue I would have any trouble with, unless, of course, it was to stick things to myself, perhaps. That's bonkers. A great idea, but I do like the netting is kind of is a really obvious kind of solution, I suppose. You drape it from the balcony and above, you create a big space that they can fly in, and that makes sense. But I guess then you have to have quite precision flying, and those things, when they've got a camera on them, there's quite a payload. They can weigh up to I don't know what it is, 24 pounds. I was looking into this recently because I got a B&H Photo, who are those New York-based audiovisual dealers, and they've got a whole section on flown stuff. So you can buy a drone for $200 right up to 6,000 or 7,000, which will have the ability to carry a full DSLR on it. So you can get those amazing shots because everybody uses them. But it's interesting, the whole notion about drones, because the licensing is an absolute nightmare. If I was to use one for my own purposes, if I wanted to use it in a Sonic State video, I'd be screwed because I have to then get some sort of special avionics license to then use it. And it's a really convoluted and complicated way. So just to sort of use them for any kind of commercial use, it becomes a very, very different and very, very much more expensive procedure. So there's this sort of very grey area about that whole thing. And that's the thing. And I don't know if it's the same in the US. I don't know. Is it, Dave, Rich? I'm not sure if that's something you got as far as looking into how you could fly them or use them actually within a commercial production. No, I guess not. But I mean, these things are they are very. I mean, pretty much all of the shots that you see now, wildlife, large events that look like they're helicopters, aren't helicopters, they're drones, because it's obviously a drone, even with the license, is infinitely cheaper than flying a helicopter. But they only do about between 8 and 15 minutes of battery life, so you do have to watch out. In fact, I was recently at a fireworks display in Bath, and I was looking up in the sky and I saw these little blinking lights, and I was thinking, what the hell are those? Because they were moving up and down. They were quite sort of distant. And realised that they were drones that were filming the firework display, which was delayed by 10 minutes, which meant that they couldn't actually film the whole thing because they obviously ran out of juice, which was a bit of a shame. But I guess it's an interesting idea. So, Robbie, you're not going to be perhaps using those, but if you've got the net as well.
I mean, I all hats off to them for doing it. I think it's a great. I mean, it's crazy, like you said, bonkers. But I'd have still liked to have been there to see it. Well, I think probably my only contact with drones is perhaps if Domino's Pizza or Amazon start delivering small packages with them.
Oh yeah, they were talking about that as a possibility, wouldn't they? But they would have to be flying off from a central truck that wasn't very far away, I suppose, or they'd have to build an Amazon distribution centre. Well, it would have to be 7.5 minutes from your house maximum flying, because obviously it'd have to get there and back. But yeah. Can you imagine? No. Can you imagine the kids in the hood, with catapults, like bringing them down to kind of?
Well, I can't imagine. How can you possibly police airspace if there's thousands of those things just randomly flying around from various companies? I don't see how it would ever work. But anyway,
yeah, it is
a whole other thing.
It is a very different. I recently, when I was on holiday, we were at a place where they had parasenders that would just descend randomly from the sky onto the beach front. And this wasn't in peak time, but in peak time there are thousands of people there, and people are always getting sort of bashed in the back of the head with somebody who's coming into land from the sky, because you just don't think, when it's like think once, think twice, look left, look right, cross. You don't tend to look up or behind you or whatever as well. It's much more difficult.
Green Cross Code. Huh?
Yeah, maybe they'll have to bring a new Green Cross Code character in. This is the character that for many years in the UK taught children via public service adverts on the TV how to cross the road safely. I don't know.
How to cross the beach safely.
Yeah, bonkers, but really interesting. I mean, maybe, I think you're right, Rich. Using them as cameras to film the audience and film other people is definitely not a bad idea. Uli Behringer says, Yes, that's right. Uli Behringer says angry bonbon in the chat room. Very, very much. That's exactly where he was. That's in Turkey. There you go. What a perceptive chat room we have. Okay, next. Here's an equally... Well, it's equally bonkers. This is a fantastic video. This is the... this is a video by a chap called Nigel Stanford. And he's got an album called Solar Echoes. And this is basically him as all the members of the bands, with each thing being, you know, using cymatics. So this is where you push sound through various objects to create these beautiful patterns. Well, it's like a microbrute there, and this is the water thing, and there's some oil, and it's a really beautiful video. This has had like 1 million on Vimeo and 1 million plus on YouTube, and all these players are him, so they've obviously but it gets more and more bonkers. I'm just trying to find if I've got my mouse I can bring it forward a bit. Let's have a look. I can't find it. Ah, there it is. Let's fast forward it a little bit. So he's got this beautiful image, beautifully filmed. This is great. This is the Gaia. Just all these kind of cymatic tricks, and then it starts to get really serious, and he brings in the Tesla coil and starts playing in the room with, if I just keep fast forwarding it, so it starts kind of striking lightning through all the metal objects in the room while wearing a mesh suit, which I'm guessing is pretty brave. There we go, this is the money shot. Jesus Christ. Now, in the days when, you know, in terms of how one has to get noticed, that's a pretty damn good way of doing it. And I mean, it was beautiful, beautifully filmed, and some of those imagery is beautiful. And we've seen cymatic stuff, but would you go that far? Tesla coils and gas, says Sparky in the chat room. Eek. Yes, it definitely does kind of make you cringe a little bit. Just another health and safety issue. I don't know, Dave, that looks like an awesome video shoot, doesn't it? I mean, some of the stuff in there is beautiful. I mean, just putting waves through oscilloscopes looks great, but, you know, vibrating them through that, somebody's going to have to build a cymatics machine that you just put a jack into and just make it do lovely stuff one of these days, you know, in the same way that we used to have those oil and water kind of machines that used to just wobble around. Got to be done, right?
Yeah, I love this. I really loved it.
Music wasn't bad either.
No, I liked, yeah, everything about it. I was like, brilliantly filmed, like the track, all of the cymatic stuff, ace, the water on the kick drum, nice. It's just great. In fact, at one point I was like, are you sure this is real? Because at the beginning, obviously, it tells you everything you see is real. And it was just, I was like, what, really? I just like the idea, again, of being in the meeting and it's like, so who's going to wear the Faraday cage suit then? You can do that, you know, like flipping a coin. Drummer. But yeah, no, brilliant. Loved it.
Yeah, no, really, really good stuff. I know, Rich, what do you think about that? That part might be cool live. I mean, you went to see Amon Tobin, didn't you? And you saw the kind of spectacle of that. I mean, something like this, I guess it's like on a smaller scale, but if you project it well, it would really, I guess it would only work for a song or two. You wouldn't want to watch it all night, perhaps, but beautiful.
Well, I loved the video. I was fascinated by it. And then I did some digging onto the guy's blog and started watching all the making of videos about how this was put together. And it was very instructive because the last thing they did was the music. And the pictures don't represent what's being played when you're hearing it.
Ah, okay.
So the pitches that it took to align those grains of salt on that metal object were not the pitches that were being represented to you musically. They found 4 pitches that made really cool patterns, decided to use those 4 and applied them to the music later, but they shot the film first.
Oh, that's kind of disappointing. You sort of want it to be, yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but you sort of...
Everything that you see is real, which is true, which is what they contend. It just doesn't correlate to what you're hearing. For example, the trick with the bass, the subwoofer, which had water running out of it, and you could see a sort of a cylindrical a sort of a spiraling water wave form every time the kick drum was hit. Had a lot to do with. No, but I'm not debunking anything because, pardon me, I'm speaking to the chat room now. I'm not debunking anything. They'll tell you this. With respect to the water, it had to do with the frequency relationship between the frame speed and the water.
Yeah, okay.
The pitch of what was taking place.
Sure.
And so there was some way that you could get close to the fundamental frequency, and therefore you would see a certain amount of modulation.
Right.
It would freeze if you got exactly on it, but if you wanted it to modulate in a certain way, you'd correlate the frequency of the event to the frame speed that you were using. And sometimes they were filming things 4 times as fast, like with the gas tube, in order to get the flame explosion kind of effects that they wanted. They had to be able to show it very slowly, so they had to film it like ridiculously fast, which presents its own set of challenges. And so on first blush, I loved it and I believed every bit of it, and then as I dug deeper, I came to understand it a lot better, still loved it, and now can see where they were actually coming from with this.
Right, I see what you're saying.
They do talk about interacting the Tesla coil with the gas and their concerns about doing that. They talk about all of this stuff. It was really fascinating.
Oh, that sounds
really
interesting.
I spent my morning with this. I loved watching this.
Cool. There must be a way that it can correlate. Andy Keys in the chat room says we have to mute you. We have to mute Rich. He'll tell us next that Santa isn't real.
What, you mean he's not? Oh.
Yeah. Again, Robbie, live.
I mean, I loved it. I loved it. I went and bought his album after that.
Oh, good for you. Everybody should, because we need to support these kind of creators. So I'm sure that video cost an absolute fortune.
It's probably done its job from that point of view, with many people going to check it out.
Yeah, definitely.
I thought it was great. I mean, I'd seen that gas thing a long time ago. Somebody had that big square one, like in the middle of a table, that did all those things.
Yes, we did something. I can't remember what the effect. Fibonacci.
I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. Every aspect of it. Even after what Rich has said, I still think it's great.
I don't think we should get rid of the Rich. I mean, this all stuff is freely available. I think the thing that's interesting about this, though, imagine this guy as an artist now, when you say he's coming to town, going to be playing a gig, and he's now going to have to introduce some of that element into his show, whether it be via projection or something, because otherwise people might be slightly disappointed. I don't know. What do you think, Gaz? It's a fabulous piece of visual art, though, isn't it?
It is. And also, when you're talking about like that thing that the mini brute, and you saw that plate and the patterns were changing of like rice or I'm not sure, like salt, little seeds. Yeah. Salt, is it? Okay. So now the thing I find fascinating, though, is that those patterns you see now that we're seeing it almost like in a 2-dimensional form there, aren't we? Because it's just you couldn't suspend that in 3D, but if you imagine that those patterns, rather than it being a 2-dimensional pattern, is actually a 3-dimensional pattern. So
I see what you mean.
See what I mean? Those things are showing us the secrets of the universe. They really are. So I think that
you're probably not wrong there. It's just we don't understand what they mean.
No, we don't understand, but that's the thing. So that video is quite perceptive in a way, because I think that stuff is my prediction in the next 10 to 15 years time, that very stuff that's being shown by those cymatic processes, whatever they're called, is going to reveal the inner secrets that we've been looking for since the dawn of time. Right. I reckon it's going to happen soon. And I reckon that video is definitely it's showing some of those things, and people are going to get obsessed with it. And I reckon that video being popular, hopefully people will start just going, come on, let's push that more and more. And I want to see it, as I say, in that particular example in 3D, and I reckon it'll blow our minds.
That'll be good. I know, Dave. Again, you've got to get something going on in your studio, so you could just have it going on.
It'd be nice.
It would be
messy.
It could be messy. Yeah, it has to be a sealed unit. I tell you what, I found this other thing that I really, really like, which I saw recently in a picture of a computer store or something. This carpet that's basically 3-dimensional mesh that just looks like it's completely sort of wonky, and like the whole thing is kind of all over the place, but it's just lines on the floor. I like that as a sort of visual trick. Opto illusion. Nice. Anyway, but this guy is called. He's called Nigel Stanford. His album is out now. It's called Solar Echoes. And you can, with all the track listings here, if you just go to nigelstanford.com, you can download it and buy it and stuff. And I wish him every bit of luck, because I mean the thing is pop video. It's just so nice to see a pop video these days that kind of has just sort of real wow factor without it being based around the female anatomy. From my point of view, it's quite refreshing, and I kind of like, that's cool. You know, great, good on you. It just makes a sense of wonderment, and the drama in the music as well is kind of reflected, and that's quite, you know, that's quite nice, even if it is a sort of an illusion, kind of, even though it was all real. But brilliant stuff.
You could fuse them both, couldn't you?
You could.
Video with female anatomy and this
and cymatics, maybe. Yeah, I suppose you could have some
climatics,
sort of
did you say?
Climatics, yeah, cymatics. That was a Freudian slip right there. I'm sure there could be maybe a high frequency twerk would kind of have the same sort of effect. I don't know. Anyway, right, I've better move on quickly because I need to. Oh, this was cool. Let me see if I can find this. This might appeal to perhaps to Gaz. This is the news that Lemur from Liine, which is the MIDI/OSC kind of interface design for iPad, is now available on Android. Now this this may be not such a big deal, but it's I think this is the first, and these sort of interfaces that you can create all these various kind of crazy interfaces where I think you need an editor, but you can include gyroscopic information, gravity, all of that kind of sensor stuff to control things, and that is really interesting. I mean, this isn't let me just see, it's not cheap. It's $17.49, but I think the original, you know, the Lemur app was expensive. Well, I suppose yes, but
cheap when I spent $2,000 on a Lemur hardware.
I suppose so, but Lemur, you know, Jazz Mutant went out of but I mean, what's perhaps more interesting is you can buy an Android tablet from Walmart or the local equivalent for kind of 79 quid almost, you know, really low price, much cheaper than an iPad, so that you can have a dedicated surface of it. And this was something that was kind of interesting to me. I don't know whether you felt the same way, Gaz, or whether you found it as potentially exciting anyway.
Oh, no, brilliant. I mean, I can't wait to get rid of an iPad, to be honest. I'm sick of Apple and their corporate shenanigans. Anyway, so this is great. This is really exciting. As we know, Lemur has got that history. So, I mean, you know, this is properly professional software. So £17.49 is a complete bargain. It's amazing. I mean, you know, the editor, I'm assuming the editor is going to be similar to the one that's on the iPad, and that's matured a lot. And Nick, what's the name of the company again, please, who make it?
Liine. Liine.
Sorry, I just love the way
Richie
you say
Horton's
that.
something in there.
Oh, is it? It's got something right. Okay. Well, because he uses Richie Horton uses the Lemur stuff, and they do dedicated able control stuff as well. Sorry, back to you guys. Yeah.
No, it's so it's exciting. This is properly professional software. The in our quite in-depth experiments over the years now with Sonic Touch, we've looked at so many things and so many ways of using touch interface, and I think that's what's great about this particular thing, is bringing that history, that real experience of what are actually useful touch idioms, you know, useful kind of ways of operating the controls. You know, lots and lots of stuff comes out with ideas of how to use touch, but this has got that kind of history for the touch. So I think if you've got an Android device, I think, gosh, go out and get this immediately. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, I fully intend. I mean, I like the idea of being able to take my phone and have it control maybe a camera head, so I can be just sort of doing, you know, zoom, 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 turn, you know, all of this sort of stuff, just because, and then recording all of that as MIDI data and playing it back. So I just go, yeah, I want this shot here that does that, and it does that, and it does that, and it does that over time. Thank you very much. Play it back. You know, all of that stuff. You know, really, there are really interesting ideas. Sorry, Robbie.
No, I was going to say, the thing I thought was interesting about it, because I know nothing about anything Android-based, PC-based, any of that stuff, was presumably that means, aren't there bigger touch surfaces available on Android than there are on Apple?
Yes, there are.
So that was interesting to me, because you could suddenly have something that's bigger, not constrained to the iPad size format for using it. because I mean the software is really mature. I mean I've been using it for years since it came out, and so I mean I imagine the workflow is exactly the same on an Android device. So even if you bought an Android, a big Android device purely for using it for that app, it'd be worthwhile probably.
I think you're right. Do you use the Lemur in the studio or live? Am I?
I've used the hardware both in the studio and live, and I've used the one on the iPad both in the studio and live as well.
Right.
I've got quite a few templates for the Lemur on the iPad that I use with I've forgotten the company, Twisted Tools.
Right.
With some of their software.
So you use it just for controlling specific.
Yeah.
Interesting, because we had a Lemur here for a long time. It's a French company that we was just. I mean, this all came out pre-iPad, and the iPad came out, and it kind of crushed the notion of it. Because why would you buy a dedicated two grand or $1,000 piece of hardware when you could potentially run this stuff, you know, on something that you would already have for checking your email or whatever? That was the thing that kind of killed them a little bit. But the actual intrinsic technology, as Liine got hold of, and they've been using it. In their, you know, kept the brand alive. So the editor has become is now much more advanced because you need like a little daemon. Was it Jazz Daemon? Is it still the Jazz Daemon, which I like the idea of, that you have to run on your machine?
Yeah, I mean, compared to where it started off, it's so advanced now with what you can do. There's so many more objects and actions and stuff. I mean, you can really. It's one of those things. It's really the sky's the limit on how you want to use it. Yeah, it's great. It's a great bit of software.
I know, Rich, tempted by. I mean, because this is the sort of thing that, you know, you would, if you found a use for it, I suppose it would have. I mean, I know you're not all that excited by the prospect of mixing on a coffee table, as you put it so eloquently in the past, but the notion of being able to have a relatively cheap device that you could dedicate it to something specific. That's, you know, and you're not using up an iPad, you're using something that was maybe half the price and twice the size. You know, if you need that extra real estate, that's quite interesting.
Could be useful. I don't know what I'd do with it, but it could be useful. And I could see, if I were running a software-based rig, the possibility of wanting that kind of control within easy reach. So I can understand it. I just don't have a vision of my own way of using it.
I see what you mean. I think, Dave, you think about it, you could get, for the price of an iPad, you could get 4 tablets in the UK and just have 4 separate, you know, things just constantly available to that's quite interesting. Because you've got, am I right or wrong in thinking, do you have a board still in your studio, or do you mix everything inside the kind of RME domain?
I do. I did, but no, that's gone now. I miss it, actually.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe you need one of these.
Yeah, I have to say, I didn't look at this subject because as we approach deadline, I'm sort of all softwared out. I needed to listen to some music, which is why I love that video. And the other bit with the pianist, I was just like, that's what I need to kind of do. So yeah, I'm sorry. This is this discussion has been really interesting to me.
But you don't use an iPad in terms of, you know, outside of perhaps, you know, just your general sort of sitting watching telly and checking your email kind of thing. Do you use your phone for any kind of control or any of that side of things, or have you kept away from it?
No. In fact, I'm fast. I bought the missus an iPad, partly because I wanted that MS-20 app, just to see what that was like. She sits in front of the TV and does her emails on it. I still use my phone, but I'm kind of joining the ranks of a few people I know who are downgraded, who are probably going to downgrade phones, or who have already downgraded their phones, and it's just like, it's text and it's a phone. It does nothing else. So I'm kind of joining the old curmudgeon club for a bit.
Right, the curmudgeon club. I like the idea of that. That sounds like a very an organisation that's probably gaining quite a lot of traction, certainly amongst the older generation. Maybe they should be made official.
Can we call the show?
Will be president.
Sorry.
Can we call the show "Jiving with the Curmudgeon Club"? Jiving
with the Curmudgeon Club. We might be able to. It's a possible. It's a possibility. There was one other thing that I wanted to bring out, because time's really moved on. I didn't expect it to have been quite this far. I did get an email from a chap who said he was going to work on the idea of a professional animator who was going to do a new title sequence, so that then we could do the competition for the for the theme tune. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. While we're on the subject of Control, maybe I should quickly put this. If you were looking for Control, I discovered these new this company when I was at the Music Production Producers Expo in where were they? It was in the Emirates Stadium, Arsenal's Arsenal soccer team's home ground. Where you go there, you have to take a picture of just the word arse. It's absolutely mandatory. I do it every year, just because I have to. But I did see this range of controllers from a company called Icon, and they're making like a full Mackie Control surface with motorized faders and the whole 9 yards, everything, and it's.
They've been out a couple of years.
I know, but I just couldn't believe how cheap it was. It's 440 quid, including that. And this thing is made of metal. I mean, it's solid as a rock. You know, it's very interesting. They've got a lot of stuff that's coming out. I just wondered if anyone is actually in the market for a Mackie Control or whatever, because a Mackie Control units are generally, or the Huey units, they're generally about $1,000 plus, you know. So these things just seem like we're going to try and get one in for review just to see whether it's able to kind of live up to being bashed around or whatever. But it looks like an incredibly good value for money thing. Just if you're in the market, it might be worth seeing if there's a dealer around you that might have one. I have no. Sorry.
What would
you got that Behringer one coming in?
A Lemur, a Lemur configured as a control surface running on a an Android device. What do you think that hardware would? What do you think? Why would that be better than, say, following that route?
Well, if you feel like you want hands-on faders and you want to touch stuff, you need tactile rather than two-dimensional control, I guess.
Okay.
I think that might be the reason that you might go that way. I mean, I've tried the Mackie controls and various things, and they work. The faders are all fine, and the transport control's handy to have. But trying to edit parameters and stuff via the VPOTs is not.
They were really noisy as well. You used to have to turn them off when you're doing any tracking, if you're tracking in the same room, because the phaser.
Yes, I know what you mean.
When you got like 3 of them or whatever, it was just like a hell of a racket.
Yes, that's true.
The Behringer, that new Behringer that's imminent, that looks pretty compelling as a controller in that way.
I think they're the ones that were announced. I'm just trying to think.
It was announced at NAMM, wasn't it? But it's not due till like beginning of next year or the end of this year. The X Control or something it's called.
X-Touch.
X-Touch.
Yeah. That's this thing,
one of that.
Isn't it?
It's really good.
That one, yeah, that's the same kind of deal.
Scribble strips and everything. I mean, 600
Oh yes,
quid
actually, that does have a scribble strip, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's got like OLEDs on every channel.
God, what's that? Somebody.
Anyway.
Yes, I don't. That looks interesting. But again, they actually didn't announce that. They announced that. Yes, it was at NAMM, wasn't it? And I remember seeing the preview, and it's been a very long time coming. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Maybe all their team have jumped on and started developing analog synthesizers instead. So we're just going to have to wait. That's the price you pay for other stuff. I think that's kind of it really for this week. I don't know. There were some other topics, but I think we've kind of run out of time. Just to remember, just to jog your memory before we go, if you want to win a copy of iZotope Iris 2, you have to tweet. Well, not all of that. You tweet this. You do need to be on Twitter. Somebody did ask, do I have to join Twitter? And I'm afraid you do. Unfortunately, if that's a problem for you, then I guess it's a problem. Tweet that. We will pick winners from the accrued entries. Add some comment as well. You got 140 characters, but I want to say thanks very much to iZotope for sponsoring the show. I do check out the Iris 2 downloadable demo. It comes with a limited amount of content, but it works for 10 days, and it's well worth checking out. Anyway, we'll go. We'll say goodbye in the order that we joined everybody. I want to say thank you very much, Robbie, for joining us. Been a pleasure as ever. You working on stuff at the moment? Have you finished your?
Literally just finished the 5.1 mixes for Howard's multimedia DVD thing this week. So just putting it all together with the stereo mixes and long form mixes, and then I'm off to Canada to start producing an album. So yeah.
Oh, how long are you going to be in Canada for?
For 2 weeks this side of Christmas. Yeah.
Wow, Canada.
And then more in the new year probably. Yeah.
Hence you building your mobile production rack.
I am, yes. That's pretty much done now. Yeah, I'm very excited.
Oh, that sounds great. I will look forward to hearing the fruits of your labour. Thank you very much for joining us as well. And then Dave Spears over there, GeForce Software, where he's taken time out from the hectic release schedule for Odity 2, which is well worth checking out. Polyphonic, also. In fact, Dave's done a whole load of videos kind of highlighting some of the great new features and workflows and nuances that they've put into the instrument, because it is very detailed.
Yeah, deal price for new and upgrades between now and Monday, and then the price goes up a little bit. Actually released on Monday. Anyone who goes for the deal price gets entered into the art competition, which is just going to be, we're just going to point at a screen and go that one, and then go, oh my god, we've got to ship it to Tasmania. No,
well, I can give you a very good trick for picking random winners. It's something I use in the show. If you put everything in a spreadsheet or something which has line numbers, you count the number of line numbers, and then you go to a place called random.org and you type in the number, and it'll just give you a random number between those, and then you just go, right, that one, and that makes it less kind of less easily corrupted or questioned. That's what I would say.
And if it's in Tasmania, you go, do it again.
Yeah, well, I've had it a couple of. I mean, what I do is if somebody's already won, I think it's only fair that I then repick until it's somebody who hasn't won a competition, because I think that's that's just fair.
Really, you've had multiple winners. People who've done that.
What?
You've had people who've won more than once.
Yes, once. But I haven't, because I don't. Until everybody's won something, and then I think that's fair enough. I've probably broken some kind of international rule on competition picking somewhere, but hey. Oh, there I am. Where am I? I've gone. There I am. I'm back. Anyway, that was Dave. So we'll say also Rich Hilton, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you can get out of your house and enjoy your Thanksgiving fun. You're going to be Thanksgiving for a couple of days. Is that how it works? I don't know how it works. It's like, do you have the day itself and then the day after, like at Christmas, or is it just the big day?
It's the big day, followed by the probably biggest day of retail shopping in the year, which is called Black Friday in this country.
Yes.
And then a weekend of continued shopping, retail madness, and then basically it used to symbolize the beginning of the Christmas retail holiday shopping season, but now that's begun like weeks ago already. But Black Friday is a big day in retail, and everything, the sales are supposed to be better than any other time of the year and all that.
In fact, there are a number. Have you got your eye on anything in the Black Friday sales, Rich?
I sort of do.
Oh, anything you can tell us?
He said, looking over. Well, I have a little surround rig on my TV up here, and it's not very good, and there's some issues with it that drive me nuts. And in order to properly replace it, it would require my buying both a receiver and a surround speaker rig, a small one. And so there's a fair amount of expense involved. So I am kind of keeping my eyes open to see if something cool pops up, because it doesn't need to be that elaborate over here. I have the elaborate one downstairs. So that's what I'm looking for right now.
Okay. Well, good luck in your searches, and thank you very much for joining us. And of course, we're going back over to Bristol, to Gaz there. Gaz Williams, thank you for joining us as well, and thanks for showing us your...
Yeah. Can you hear that?
Yeah, what is it?
It's the new chord mode in Machine 2.2. That's going to create a whole load of songs
that do that.
Well, yeah, because you've got this thing called these chord sets, where whatever key you're in, there's a load of kind of just preset chords, and you can route any sound into the chords, and you can make a riff because hitting the pad is quite pleasing. So. And one finger.
One finger chordmeister. There we go.
Yeah.
So sport. We're going to be a whole sport. It's like the techno. It's like the techno chord that you sample and play, but this is a bit more involved.
I mean, I think especially because a lot of machine users are not maybe come up with the traditional kind of I mean, some are, musicians and plenty of musical skill, but a lot of people who use that kind of device don't maybe have any musical theory knowledge.
Yeah, David Guetta has just appeared in the chat room as a quote from Andy Keys. Yes.
So I'm hoping at least within that sphere of music, suddenly things are going to get harmonically a lot more interesting
and correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, guys, on that note, thank you very much. And I think that's it for this week. So I'm just going to hit the fade to black and we'll call it a King Sunny. See you later.